put yourself in position for a potential airdrop from Arbitrum. Now, this isn't confirmed or anything like that, but I'm just looking at contextual clues, and I think it's highly likely that they're going to do a token and they're going to airdrop it to users of Arbitrum. Now, we know that, for example, Optimism, they airdropped a token to early users, and they did that on the 1st of June. And Optimism is a competing Ethereum layer 2 optimistic rollup, and so if they've got a token and all the other layer 2 optimistic rollups like Boba and Metis, they've all got tokens, it's highly likely that Arbitrum is going to get a token as well. Additionally, a token is useful for layer 2s because it allows the decentralization of the sequences, similar to, say, like a proof of stake system. If you just want to take a look deeper into why Arbitrum might actually want a token, then I'll leave a link in the description down below to this Bankless newsletter. It's really great. It just goes over the reasons for why Optimism has a token and how value will accrue to it. So if we just take a look at the Optimism airdrop, for example, we can take a few clues from this and apply that thinking to a possible Arbitrum airdrop. So you might think, is this even going to be worth your time? You might not be someone who uses Ethereum layer 2s. You might be someone who, say, for example, you use Phantom because it's cheap for you, or Avalanche or Solana, or one of the, many other chains out there. But I think it's definitely well worth your time. So if we just take a look here, the price of Optimism, it's gone down massively since, it was initially airdropped about 2 weeks ago. And that's because of, market conditions have been bad, and there was an exploit that occurred. Where I think an exploiter managed to walk away with 20 million Optimism tokens. Regardless of that, let's just say you managed to claim your airdrop and sell it at about $1. Depending on who you were and how many criteria that you actually hit, here you could have received 4k up to 27k as well. And so it was definitely well worth your time actually trying to get this Optimism airdrop. I mean, even if you had bridged over to Optimism and then used a couple of dApps there a year ago, you would have got a couple $100 for doing so, right? And it's not that super expensive to use Ethereum layer 2s right now, and so it was well worth your time. So what was the criteria here for actually getting the Optimism airdrop? Well, you had to be user of Optimism, repeat user, vote in DAOs, sign multi-sigs, donate on Gitcoin, or bridge to other chains like, say, Polygon, for example. Now, the Optimism airdrop criteria is probably not going to be the exact same as the Arbitrum airdrop criteria. However, I think that they did a great job on actually removing people who were doing Sybil attacks, or people using multiple wallets to try and get as much of an airdrop as possible. And they made sure that the Optimism tokens got into the right hands. People who had actually used Optimism first, who were early believers, and people who are actually power users of Optimism. So I think they did a great job, and it's likely that Arbitrum is going to do something similar. And so the best way to position yourself for an Arbitrum airdrop is to follow basically what you see here on Optimism. So you want to bridge over and you want to start using dApps. Now, I think the best way here is to say every Sunday, go into Arbitrum and then swap between ETH and USDC, and then just use several different decentralized exchanges out there as well. Because I think that when Optimism did its token airdrop, they allowed for certain protocols on Optimism to distribute lots of Optimism tokens. And so, for example, I think Pika Exchange, which is a perpetual futures DEX on Optimism, they did a retroactive airdrop, so people who used Pika got a bunch of Optimism as well. And so it makes sense to start using lots of different dApps available on Arbitrum as well, not just using Uniswap or 1inch, but use them all and just go back to them each week. Now, if you're struggling for ideas for what to do when you're on Arbitrum, if you go to defilama.com/chain/Arbitrum, it should bring you to this page, and you can see most of the dApps that are live on Arbitrum right now. So you have SushiSwap, GMX, Curve, D4, Stargate, Uniswap, Synapse, Beefy Finance, RAV3, Dopex. There's a lot here that you could be using. So if you just set yourself the goal of just using 1 or 2 a week, I think that should be enough to get yourself set up for the possible Arbitrum airdrop. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this is an Ethereum layer 2, and so it must be expensive. However, if we go to layer 2 fees.info, we can see that it really isn't, right? To actually do a swap on Arbitrum, 30 cents. On Optimism, it's 28 cents. But you know, the price of this is going to get cheaper over time as well. And in fact, the more people that actually go ahead and use layer 2s, the cheaper it actually gets because the costs are socialized. So, you know, if 1,000 people get their transactions included in a block versus like 100 people, then it's actually going to be cheaper for the 1,000 people just because of the way that, you know, they batch transactions up. And, you know, a lot of people were big fans of Avalanche, and they would pay and like $20 to do a swap at the height of the bull market. So if you went ahead and actually started testing out all of these dApps on Arbitrum, I recommend you test out as many as possible, the ones that are definitely not rug pulls. So I can't speak for the sort of legitimacy of all of them, but the ones that have big name brands and the ones that you know exist on other chains as well, like so Sushi, Curve, Stargate, Beefy, Uni, Synapse, Aave, Dopex, you know, those are your safe ones, and you're definitely not going to get rugged using them. But how much gas are you going to actually end up paying when you use all of those dApps? It depends, right? And I think, you know, you could use up to, you know, $30-$40 just going ahead and making sure that you're actually going to qualify for this airdrop by really using these dApps on Arbitrum, just going in, you know, maybe once a day, maybe once a week, just making sure that you're actually going ahead and being a repeat user of Arbitrum. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is Arbitrum Odyssey. Now, there is no direct relation between Arbitrum Odyssey and an Arbitrum token. This is all just speculation on our part. So Olympio Crypto has just put out, you know, a great tweet thread on this. So Arbitrum Odyssey is an 8-week event where users bridge to Arbitrum and then use protocols to get NFT rewards. So if you perform the weekly on-chain actions that each of these protocols set you, you will get an NFT, and at the end of 8 weeks you can get a maximum of 17 NFTs. And so here are the confirmed winners. And so each week, if you use each of these protocols, you will get an NFT. So someone has been so kind to actually put this into a Google Doc, and I'll leave a link in the description down below if you want to use this and just keep a track of what you've been using on Arbitrum as well. And so this is really useful. So you can see here week 1, you'll be using Yield Protocol and Hashflow, a broad exchange, Tofu NFTs, Uniswap, Apex, 1inch, Azumi, Dodo, Swapper, Treasure DAO, Battlefly, Idea Market, and Sushi Swap. So for the most part, a lot of these are actually decentralized exchanges. You do have some unique ones here like Tofu NFT, Yield Protocol, Treasure DAO, and Idea Market. But, you know, they're quite easy to go ahead and actually figure out. And they have the links to all of them here as well. And then once you use it, you can just actually just mark off that you've used it. And then just scrolling down this page, they've also been kind enough to put 12 tokenless Arbitrum dApps to potentially use to get an airdrop in the future. Go ahead and check out all of these dApps as well. Try them out when you're actually going ahead and using Arbitrum, and it should count towards you being a repeat user. Now, I wouldn't recommend going ahead and trying to do this with multiple wallets and try and Sybil attack the Arbitrum airdrop, because it's most likely that they're going to catch you. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.